Hello, my name is Tiffany Ruiz, and I will be your instructor for Medical Terminology 1. Just remember, you are never alone. If you ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out either via email, text. We can even meet on Teams as well. Without further ado, let's get started. I like to say that learning medical terminology is kind of like a cyclical process, so there's no real clear place to jump in or end learning. It kind of never ends. So the best thing we're going to do, or the best thing we can do, is start with chapter 1. So let's just dive in. All right, learning outcomes for chapter 1. We are going to discuss the history of medical terminology and how terms are developed. This will help us understand how to break them apart later. We'll also describe the importance of pronunciation and spelling in medical terminology. Very important. There are so many word parts that look alike, sound alike, but are very different. We'll illustrate the 4 word parts used to build medical terms. We'll also identify how word roots and combining forms build medical terms. Keep in mind, word roots and combining forms are 2 very different word parts. We will go over that in a bit. We'll also describe the process of pluralizing terms, as well as recognize and use medical terminology and its different forms. All right, the language of medicine dates to the time when people had only spoken language and no written language. It began to gain uniformity with the work of Hippocrates in 460 to 337 BC. Hippocrates is known as the father of medicine. Derivation of medical terms. So many medical terms used today are based on the ancient Greek and Latin. Word building became and remains the primary way to describe new medical discoveries. You'll understand as we learn more of the word parts how we can build new terms as new things come in. A suffix, tomi, meaning cutting, may be used in modern procedures that we do not associate with cutting. For example, phlebotomy means incision of a vein, but the basic concept still means cutting. Modern-day compound words in English. So most medical terms are Greek or Latin-based words. Some are from modern-day concepts, simple concepts combining 2 words to create 1 word, or a new meaning related to the 2 words. Compound word examples. So English word examples, we have else, meaning other or where location. Therefore, we get elsewhere. It's a compound term. And then we have grand, meaning above, mother, meaning female caregiver, therefore grandmother. Sun, meaning yellow, warm energy, flower, blooming plant, sunflower. We can see how that becomes the yellow blooming plant. Then medical terminology example, we have gyneco, which means woman, and then we have the suffix logi, which means the study of. Now, gyneco here that is presented is actually combining form, and we know that because we have the /o. So you'll remember that /o is going to be the the o is the combining vowel, and together with the word root gynec makes the combining form. If you don't remember this, that's fine. This is just to lay that base, so when we get there, maybe you'll remember it a little easier. So therefore, we end up with gynecology, which is the study of women. And we're going to learn that whenever we're breaking down a medical term, we're always going to start at the end. That suffix is going to be our first part of our definition. So we're always going to start at the caboose, I like to say, and go back to the front to the engine. More on that in a bit. Learning outcome 2, spelling and pronunciation of medical terms. Misspelling and mispronunciation can be life-threatening in a medical setting. Wrong abbreviations can have serious consequences as well. So you'll always want to check and recheck verbal instructions. Spelling and pronunciation. Familiarity with correct spelling requires seeing the terms used over and over. You're going to notice in this course there is going to be a lot of repetition. Some students in the past have complained about that, but guess what? Repetition is key. We also want you to pronounce words aloud because you're going to be speaking this in the field. You need to make sure that you are able to pronounce these terms. If you have a question on how something needs to be pronounced, there are resources that you have with this course in McGraw-Hill, or you can always reach out to me and I'd be more than happy to help you out. Use resources when needed, such as a medical dictionary. Those are very helpful. Learn basic terms in other languages such as Spanish, especially in our location. Spanish is another language that is beneficial for us to know. Another one of my favorite topics, eponyms. These are terms formed from names, such as Parkinson's disease. They're formed by adding an apostrophe followed by an S. This shows possession. Some medical associations are dropping the apostrophe and the S and referring to Parkinson's disease. Just remember the eponyms are from names. Next, we're going to be forming medical terms. As you can see here, we have a prefix, word root, and suffix, and it goes in the way that we're reading it. However, we will define it in a different way. All right, now we're going to talk about a vowel that ties the root with another root or suffix. Word roots are always seen including the combining form, which always includes a vowel. So vowel O is used 70% of the time. Suffixes that begin with a vowel use that vowel. What this means is that if your suffix begins with a vowel, we don't need the combining vowel. So we don't need a combining form because our suffix already begins with a vowel, which will aid in the pronunciation of the medical term. I will have more examples of that as we go. Forming medical terms works the same way as forming compound words in English. You learn the word parts, you combine two or more of those words together to convey multiple concepts into one word. Learning outcome 4. Word roots and combining forms. Word roots are the foundation or the base for a medical term. Without the word root, we don't know what we're talking about. This is also the basis for what is being related to. Constructing words equals your word root, which is commonly the focus. Deconstructing words, you're going to have your suffix in the first place, and then you're going to go back to the beginning. Let me give you a little bit of an example. Here you can see I've given us the word cardiomyopathy. Now, to break this down, we're always going to start with that suffix first. So we're going to start with pathy, then we're going to go back to the beginning, and we're going to go to cardio. Now, cardio here, as you can see down here, is a combining form. This vowel right here is a part of the word root. The O is the combining vowel. And then we have myo, which is another word root. So this would be definitely a compound term because we have more than one word root here. Let's start again. So we're going to go back to the end. Pathy means disease. So this is disease of what? We go back to cardi, heart, myo, muscle. So this is disease of the heart muscle. That's how we were able to get our definition out of this term. Hopefully that makes sense for you. Here we go. Here's another one. So we have tonsillectomy. So as you can see, tonsil equals the throat tissue. Ectomy is the complete removal of or surgical removal of. So in order for us to get this definition, we'd start with ectomy, complete removal of what? Tonsil, the throat tissue. So that gives us that definition. Learning outcome 5, pluralizing terms. Most English plurals are formed by adding s or es to a word, like cancer, cancers, or abscess, abscesses. Words of Greek or Latin origin, however, use regular plural of that language. So bursa would become bursae, embolus would become emboli. So it's not just as simple as adding an s onto a term to make it plural. We have to learn those different word rules. Add s to words ending in any vowel or consonant except for s, x, z, or y. So an example of this would be from joint to joints. We can use the s. You're going to add es to words ending in s, x, or z, such as reflex, reflexes. Then we're going to remove the x and add ces to Latin words ending in x, like it goes from appendix to appendices. Remove the y and add ies to words ending with a y, preceded by a consonant, such as vasectomy to vasectomies. When an ending y is preceded by a vowel, the usual plural suffix is s, so from boy to boys. And adding an e to Latin terms ending in a, an example would be from fossa to fossae. And final plural rules. Remove us and add I to the Latin words ending in us. For example, staphylococcus goes to staphylococci. Another one you might be familiar with is fungus to fungi. Remember, the fungus, us, we would think of many, but us means one, so fungus is one, fungi is many. Then we're going to change cis to cs. So in Greek words ending in sis, such as psychosis, goes to psychoses. Another word that we might be familiar with this kind of ending would be diagnosis, which goes to diagnoses. Learning outcome number 6, using medical terminology and its different forms. So medical terms can mean structures and function, major word parts associated with the system parts in detail and word building, diagnostic, procedural, or laboratory terms. We'll also find pathological terms. Remember, patho means disease. We will also learn surgical terms and pharmacological terms. Now we're going to review some abbreviations. These are really good to put on flashcards. I'm a huge believer in flashcards. You will probably hear me say that throughout this entire course. So if you're ever struggling with a chapter or with certain word parts, put it on a flashcard. I do have some electronic flashcards available in our Blackboard course. If you look on that left toolbar, you should see one that says flashcards, and I should have a group of flashcards for every chapter. So let's start on these abbreviations. A means before. AC, before meals. AMI, acute myocardial infarction. BID, BID is twice a day. BP, we might not know, blood pressure. CO, complaining of. CA, cancer or carcinoma. CC, you'll see this a lot on your notes, chief complaint. COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, could also be classified as emphysema or chronic bronchitis. Then we have CXR, which is chest x-ray. DOB, date of birth. DX, you'll see me use this one a lot in our notes, or if I make an announcement and I'm using the word diagnosis, I'm going to use this to get you familiar. So DX is diagnosis. ECG or EKG, it's actually going more towards ECG now because of cardio starting with a C. This is electrocardiogram. Fracture, it's another one I'll probably use, FX. GI, gastrointestinal. HO is history of. HEENT, head, ears, eyes, nose, and throat. HTN, hypertension. You'll probably see that one notated in a chart somewhere. And you'll also see me use this one. HX is history. IM is intramuscular. LAC, laceration. LOC, level of consciousness. MCG, microgram. NKDA, no known drug allergies. NPO, you might have seen this one before, nothing by mouth. PO, by mouth. PRN, as needed. QID is 4 times a day. SOB is shortness of breath. TID, 3 times a day. We have try. TX, treatment. You might see that one as well. WO, without. WNL, within normal limits. SNOMED CT and ICD, systemized nomenclature of medicine clinical terms. ICD stands for International Classification of Disease. So let's quickly go over a chapter review. So what have we learned? Medical terminology is derived from several ancient languages. Remember, Greek and Latin. It is comprised of forming words that convey a message by utilizing any of the 4 word parts, those being prefix, a word root, combining form, and a suffix. We also learned the nature of medicine is so important that common errors in spelling and pronunciation can cause life-threatening consequences. It is vital that the student is able to correctly pronounce and spell terms and word parts. Student being you. The common word parts that are used in medical terminology are prefixes, word roots, combining forms, and suffixes. Do you see that repetition there? It's key. We also learned word roots are the basic foundations of a medical term. The combining form is the word root plus the combining vowel to link word parts. Primarily suffixes, not prefixes. I did want to take this out, but I'm going to leave it in there for a teaching moment. So prefixes actually never get a combining vowel. They never will. But we do use it for suffixes and for additional word roots. So for joining more than one word root, then we're going to have that combining vowel in there. So we're going to scratch this prefixes because prefixes never get a combining vowel. Most English plurals are formed by adding s or es to a word. This is also true of many medical terms. However, medical terms derived from ancient Greek and Latin often use the regular plural forms from those languages. And Lastly, you should recognize and use medical terminology and its different forms, and be aware of the body systems. That is all I have for you for this chapter. If you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out and let me know. I can't read minds as much as I would love to be able to. Not really. But if you do have any questions, text is best because you're going to get the fastest response. You can always email me, and I'm more than happy to set up a Teams meeting if you want to meet virtually. I can walk you through the course or any assignments or anything that you might have questions on. Just remember, you are never alone in this course. I am here. Use me, abuse me. That's what I get paid for. All right, I'll see you next week. Bye.